Days of Our Lives, spoilers reveal that Rafe Hernandez could be gearing up for another coma crisis. An ominous cat green clue could point to a life-threatening ordeal, so we should discuss all the danger ahead. In Days' August 12th episode, Rafe gave Kat a self-defense lesson so that she could be prepared. Although Shane Donovan doesn't plan on sending Kat out in the field much, she wants to be able to take care of herself just in case. Kat ultimately impressed Rafe since she was a quick study, though he suggested she might need a few more lessons before she was ready to take on the bad guys. However, it's what Rafe said next that could put his own survival at risk. But don't worry, okay? Because as long as you're my partner, I will protect you with my life, Rafe assured Kat. That's the kind of promise that's inevitably going to lead to trouble. Days writers surely wouldn't have Rafe say something like that, unless he was indeed going to put his own life on the line for Kat sooner or later. Of course, there's nothing to indicate that Rafe's getting a fatal exit, but things could still take an alarming turn. Rafe might be mistakenly presumed dead for a bit and send his loved ones into panic mode. Or maybe he could end up in a coma again instead. Days fans will recall that Connie Vaniski put Rafe in a coma last year, but perhaps another one could be in his future. That's the kind of thing that could leave Kat feeling both grateful and guilty for what Rafe's going through. Naturally, it's also possible that Rafe's potential injuries will be more minor. The real point of that "protect you with my life" vow might be to set up some flying sparks when danger strikes. Rafe might come through for Kat when it counts and get a kiss planted on him if things turn more sizzling between them. Regardless, Duels laid the groundwork for Rafe to play the hero for Kat and put his own life in jeopardy in the process. Days of Our Lives spoilers say some dangerous curveballs are still to come for Rafe and Kat. Days of Our Lives spoilers for Friday, August 8th reveal that 3 kisses will shake up Salem. Chad DiMera will also play Doctor for Kat Green, while Belle Black rages at EJ DiMera. So let's talk about what's coming up on Duel. For starters, it looks like Kat will be feeling a little under the weather, so Chad will nurse her back to health at home. Let's hope whatever Kat's got isn't contagious, since she's about to plant a big kiss on Chad. Of course, we should consider the possibility that it'll be a dream, since Kat's been fantasizing about Chad lately. However, it's also possible Chad and Kat just won't be able to resist temptation anymore. Other Days spoilers say Sarah Horton Kyriakis will run into Brady Black after her shift at the hospital. Once Sarah encounters Brady in the town square, they'll decide to have dinner together at the bistro. As luck would have it, Gabby Hernandez is already there with Xander Kyriakis. Days spoilers indicate that Gabby will steal a smooch from Xander right as Sarah and Brady enter the restaurant. That'll rile Sarah up enough to steal one from Brady next, so he'll be taken aback when she pulls him into a hot lip lock. Xander will get up from the table and try to launch a physical altercation with Brady, but Sarah may intervene before things get out of hand. In the courtroom, EJ will continue to push for a mistrial based on Belle's conflict of interest. Days spoilers say Belle will rush to her own defense, especially since EJ's got a conflict of interest too. Now that Belle is fuming over EJ's dirty move, it won't be long until she unleashes her wrath on him. EJ will insist he's just doing whatever's necessary to fix things for Johnny DiMera, but Belle will rip into him over his latest tactic. Speaking of Johnny, he'll lean on Marlena Evans for support as the week winds down. Days of Our Lives spoilers say Johnny will give Marlena updates on all the latest news from court, so stay tuned to watch her comfort him. He may play Javi on Peacock's Days of Our Lives, but viewers are about to see a whole lot more of Al Calderon on NBC. On July 29th, our sister site, Deadline, learned exclusively that the Salem actor has landed a role on Brilliant Minds. The medical drama, which was last seen in January, will return with its Season 2 premiere in September. And from the sounds of it, his character is going to be front and center in the drama. So, how will Calderon fit into the mix, and will it affect his status on the soap? A spokesperson from the show told Soaps.com, "We do not comment on the contract status of our actors, but fans should not worry. Al Calderon's Javi is alive and well in Salem." However, Deadline later learned on July 30th that Calderon will, in fact, be leaving the role, and Days of Our Lives will be recasting Javi. Since the show tapes so far in advance, Viewers will continue to see Calderone in the role through May 2026. Of his time on the soap, Calderone posted an Instagram story and stated, "My time on Days of Our Lives has been truly life-changing." He went on to express, "I'm endlessly grateful to the cast, crew, and creatives who made me feel seen, valued, and part of a legacy family. I'll carry to love, lessons, and memories with me on every journey I go on. While I'm just a small grain of sand, I'm just happy I got to pass through the hourglass. As my mom used to tell me, it's not goodbye, just see you later. I love you forever, Days of Our Lives." As for Brilliant Minds, fans can expect to see him join fellow series regulars Brian Altamus and John Clarence Stewart as he steps into the role of Nurse Scotty Silva, who runs the hospital and looks good doing it. The character is said to know all of the ins and outs of everything, and everything there is to know about everyone, at the hospital, all the while being charming, warm, and funny, which is why he's often referred to as the Mayor of Bronx General. For those who have yet to tune into the show, Brilliant Minds was inspired by author and physician Oliver Sacks's life and work and surrounds neurologist Dr. Oliver Wolf, played by Zachary Quinto, and his team of interns as they research the human mind and in turn find ways to deal with their own mental health and relationships. In March, Days of Our Lives made a behind-the-scenes change. Longtime senior producer Noel Maxim was promoted to co-executive producer after Janet Drucker announced her retirement. And this money, Peacock showed just how much they support Maxim's vision by renewing the show for 2 more years. We sat down with the very busy guy to get his take on Salem's past, present, and of course, the small town's future. Maxim told us right off the bat that the show will surprise everyone in the months and years ahead. He proudly shared what the writers and producers have been focusing on behind the scenes recently. "We work every day to elevate, strive, and find out what these characters will do, what they're capable of, who they're trying to push, surprise, who they want to get revenge on, who they are desperately in love with." He explains about their daily tasks in the writer's room while revealing what their ultimate goal is for the daytime soap's future. Maxim is also committed to keeping Days of Our Lives a multi-generational experience. It's not solely focused on Gen Z or millennials. Every generation has someone they can identify with, and they can reach out to the sages in their world for surprising advice, he explains. "We call it the dad moment or dad lore, mom lore, grandma lore, where they understand where you come from and give you a different perspective and allow you to sort of stretch and see." And it's not just about the youngsters learning from the veterans in Salem. The lessons go in both directions. On the other spectrum, we allow the sages and the characters who have more experience to actually learn and see fresh through the eyes of the younger ones on the show so that they can relive in certain ways, Maxim says, and maybe stretch and grow themselves and allow themselves to love, to feel revenge, to feel anger, and to also just marvel at the existence of every moment in the days of their lives. Days of Our Lives spoilers for the week of August 11th suggest some twists. Fans can expect Marlena Evans to find a disturbing clue. Philip Kiriakis could wind up in bed with Gabby Hernandez. Plus, Sophia Choi's baby mess gets even more complicated. Keep reading, and let's talk about what is coming up in the Peacock soap opera. Let's start off with Sarah Horton Kiriakis, who will have some explaining to do to Brady Black. After that spontaneous smooch, Sarah could apologize. However, Brady will likely say it's no problem and no explanation is necessary. After all, Brady spotted what was going down between Xander Cook Kiriakis and Gabby Hernandez. However, Brady could also admit that the kiss was nice, so that could get the ball rolling on these two having a romance. Speaking of Sarah, as she gets closer to Brady, she could feel guilty about keeping Sophia's secret. Brady will continue opening up about Tate Black's pain, which will intensify Sarah's guilt. As for Tate, he will keep pushing Sophia for the address. Melinda Trask did arrange for a post office box, but Tate could have dreams about the baby, or something just might feel off. So, he's not going to give up as easily as Sophia and Melinda thought. Days of Our Lives spoilers for the week of August 7th reveal that Gabby's next target will be Philip Kiriakis. As for Chad DiMera, expect him to continue bonding with Kat Green. Despite Marlena's urging, Julie Williams likely won't be able to let her bitterness go. There is also Johnny Demerara's trial. Rachel Black will have to go on the stand soon. However, she's going through a lot of guilt over possibly sending Johnny to prison. Susan Banks mentioned blood draining when trying to figure out what's really wrong with Marlena. While Susan couldn't figure it out, this clue likely connects to Marlena's dreams about being the queen of the night. Although Stefano Demerara keeps being mentioned, it's unlikely to be the Phoenix rising again. Could it be someone very close to him, though? Which storyline are you looking forward to seeing the most during the week of August 11th, 2025? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Keep watching the soap on Peacock to find out what happens next. In the 10 months since he made his Days of Our Lives debut as Javi Hernandez, Al Calderon has earned a legion of fans. He's turned a never-before-heard-of member of the Hernandez clan into a beloved character, but the actor is now moving on to a career in primetime. News recently broke that Calderon would be leaving Days to star in Season 2 of the NBC drama Brilliant Minds. The role of Javi is set to be recast, but with the soap taping close to a year ahead, Calderon will still be seen on your Salem screens until next spring. On the evening of August 6th, Calderon took to social media and posted words of gratitude in his Instagram stories. "My time on Days of Our Lives has been truly life-changing," Calderon wrote. "I'm endlessly grateful to the cast, crew, and creatives who made me feel seen, valued, and part of a legacy of family. I'll carry the love, lessons, and memories with me on every journey I go on. While I'm just a small grain of sand, I'm just happy I got to pass through the hourglass. As my mom used to tell me, it's not goodbye, just see you later. I love you forever at Days Peacock." Since coming onto the Salem scene, Calderon and Javi have endeared themselves to fans, as we've watched Javi's romance with Leo Stark play out. They survived Leo accusing Javi of stealing his body and soul scripts and leaking spoilers in the Salem Spectator, and are now living together while fostering little Tesoro. Javi and Leo have grown attached to the baby and are sure to be crushed when they learn he is really Tate and Sophia's baby. Javi has also resumed his life as an EMT and is becoming a regular member of University Hospital's social circles. That means that Calderon is sure to have some meaty material coming up on Days before his tenure with the soap ends. There has been no news about who will take over the role next spring, but be sure to check back with Soap Central for updates. Here is your Days of Our Lives recap for Thursday, August 7th, 2025. In Horton Town Square, Chanel met with Johnny to discuss the morning in court. Johnny was nervous to testify, but insisted that he had to do it. "I'm innocent, and I want the whole world to know it. That's why I have to testify," Johnny said. Chanel was proud of Johnny for not taking the easy way out. Johnny was not happy that EJ was making every witness out to be a potential suspect. Johnny relayed how Paulina was under fire, but she had his back and said she believed in his innocence. Johnny admitted he was surprised by how many people seemed to want his father dead. He realized the only person more hated than EJ was Stefano, who, my grandma Susan is insisting, is still alive, which would be impossible considering how old he'd be and how long anyone's heard from him. "I guess I overestimated your grandmother's psychic abilities when I thought she could find out who the real shooter was," Chanel lamented. Johnny still thought Susan could come through for them and imagined her taking the stand while mimicking Susan. "Oh, I'm a psychic and my grandson's innocent. Oh, I could just feel it in my bones," Johnny said, cracking up Chanel. After Johnny left, Paulina appeared to give Chanel some company. Paulina claimed she was fine after her testimony. "I had better days, but I'll survive," she said. Paulina informed Chanel that she was forced to tell the jury what Johnny said in anger after EJ was shot. However, she was impressed with EJ's skills in court. EJ arrived at Belle's Salem Inn room, ready for a romp during court recess. "Within these four walls, there is absolutely no discussion of the trial," EJ pronounced. Belle was just fine with that, as EJ carried her to the bed. In the afterglow, Belle told EJ she was worried the trial would come between them. "After almost losing you that terrible night, the thought of losing you again." "I love you," Belle said. EJ returned the sentiment. "I know you're doing your best to prosecute this case fairly. Despite the difficult situation, I want you to know that I respect that, EJ said. Back at the courthouse, Johnny interrupted a hallway moment between EJ and Belle. EJ took Johnny aside to talk, while Belle entered the courtroom and met with someone from the state attorney general's office. He was there to observe because the case had a few red flags, including the district attorney prosecuting her own nephew. It wasn't my idea to prosecute this case, but I'm doing my job to the best of my ability, and I'll continue to do so, Belle assured the man. In the hallway, Johnny worried that Belle would ask him about his conception. EJ assured him that Belle would only ask about the night of the shooting. EJ wanted Johnny to say he was furious at his father because he'd gotten in the way of him and Chanel adopting Tate and Sophia's baby. "Dad, does that still count as the whole truth?" Johnny asked. "And nothing but," EJ replied. When Johnny took the stand, he told the court that EJ had been a good dad and he loved him. Belle asked why Johnny was angry with EJ the night of the shooting, so Johnny gave him the rehearsed answer. Belle then asked if there was something else that Johnny was upset about that happened years ago. EJ objected, but the judge overruled. Johnny admitted he had learned about the circumstances behind his conception. Belle visibly had a hard time as she asked Johnny whether he had visited EJ with a gun the night of the shooting. Johnny said that he had. "Because I briefly considered using it," Johnny admitted. Belle finished her questioning and looked at a very angry EJ. EJ began to cross-examine Johnny and started with a very simple question. "Son, did you shoot me?" EJ asked. "No," Johnny replied. "I couldn't go through with it. I couldn't go through with hurting you or worse because you're my dad, and I love you." EJ got Johnny to point out that Belle was Johnny's mother's sister. He claimed Belle brought up the night Johnny was conceived based on hearsay. Belle objected, and the judge sustained the objection. Belle then redirected and got Johnny to confirm what Paulina had said, that EJ got what he had deserved. When EJ asked more questions, he got Johnny to confirm that Belle and EJ were lovers. That prompted EJ to ask for a mistrial due to Belle's conflict of interest. Xander sat at his desk, staring at the wedding ring that was still on his finger when Alex walked in. Xander had Alex sit down and informed him that someone had used the Freedom of Information Act to get information about the DiMera takeover, leading Xander to believe they were being sabotaged. He tasked Alex with finding out who it was. Xander gave Alex a copy of the request to thumb through, but Alex admitted he wasn't a detective. "But you are my right hand, and I trust you implicitly, Alex, and I'm counting on you to get to the bottom of this," Xander said. Alex took the file and said he would get to work. Clad in a sequined cocktail dress, Gabby popped into Steve's office for an update on her case. Gabby assumed Steve was the one who used FOIA rights to go digging. Steve was amused that Xander already knew. Steve wasn't sure that he had anything damaging on the Kyriakis clan yet, but he planned to keep digging. After she left Steve's office, Gabby called Xander to ask what time they were meeting for dinner. Xander suggested they meet now, so they did just that. They made some small talk about Johnny's trial. Gabby told Xander what she was forced to admit on the stand. Xander then dared to ask Gabby if she shot EJ. Gabby offered him a firm no. Xander wondered if she was planning to. "Honestly, if you were, my respect for you would increase 1,000-fold, Xander said. Gabby told Xander she pleaded the fifth. Talk turned to the Titan takeover of DiMera. Xander was proud of that, but still smarting that EJ managed to steal the hospital when Xander wanted it. As the business discussion became more in-depth, Gabby admitted she wanted the right to Gabby Chic back, but she knew her company would be gone if Titan DiMera were to fail. Xander seemed to believe her. He was especially intrigued when Gabby suggested ordering a bottle of wine. Alex ended up in Steve's office to see if Steve could figure out who made the FOIA request. He handed Steve the file and told him someone named Daniel Lucas made the request, but he suspected it was a fake name. Steve said he didn't think he could help Alex, but tried digging for info to give Gabby. Is there any information that Xander wouldn't want Daniel Lucas to find? Alex said there wasn't, as far as he knew. If I had that information, I'd have something to go on, Steve added. Alex was just disappointed that Steve wouldn't take the job. "You're the best PI I know. If you can't get to the bottom of this, nobody can," Alex sighed. Before Alex left, Steve told him he needed to be upfront about something and handed Alex the file with his criminal history. Steve explained he did research when he realized how serious Alex and Stephanie were becoming. Alex tried to explain his crimes, as they happened when he was in college. "It was nothing more than just a fraternity prank that went way too far," Alex said. In the Dimera living room, Tony was perplexed because wine seemed to be missing from a decanter, but Anna swore she didn't sneak any. "Maybe a spirit got into the spirits. I wouldn't rule it out, especially after the very interesting conversation I just had with Susan Banks," Anna said. "Tony, she claims your father is alive." Tony looked at Anna like she had 3 heads. "Think about it, Tony. Is it really so far-fetched? This is Salem after all. This is where people have been raised from the dead by the multitudes," Anna accurately pointed out. "Maybe your father has come back to life like the others." Tony offered some nervous laughter. "I wish by some miracle that my father were alive, but I know there's no ghost of a chance that could be true," Tony said. He also felt that Stefano would have never allowed Titan to take over Dimera Enterprises. Tony told Anna he was going to get the company back on his own, but he had his siblings' blessings and also wanted hers. Welcome to the Days of Our Lives Daily YAPP. For a quick, and by that, I mean you're already halfway done, recap of the most amazing or what the heck did we just watch moments on today's episode. Let's get to it. Stefano's alive seems to be the new old battle cry on Days of Our Lives, thanks to Susan Banks' declaration. Salem and fans have been through this countless times before, as the Phoenix had always risen from the ashes, but that was before the late, great Joseph Mascolo passed away in 2017. Hope had already allegedly killed soap's most notorious villain in early 2016, but there were some confused rumblings that he had survived. However, all these years later, we are told he is really and most sincerely dead, and we believe it, with good reason. Johnny told Chanel why he was sure his grandfather had to be dead: his age. At this point, Stefano would be over 100 years old if you think back on the character's history. When Stefano first arrived on the Salem scene in 1982, he was an older gentleman with a grown son and an alleged grandchild on the way. If Stefano were still alive, we'd finally believe that he was indeed superhuman. However, Tony has been acting more like Stefano than ever recently, which makes us suspect he is actually Andre, the one Dimera who took after Stefano the most. Perhaps that is why Susan senses in the mansion. And as an aside, Johnny's impersonation of his quirky grandma? On point and chef's kiss. Want more details? We got you! Soap Central has the best full duel recaps on the internet. You can even go back over 30 years and read each and every one of them. If you can't wait until the next episode, we have daily spoilers too. And whatever you do this weekend, do not, seriously, do not, forget to read the 2 scoops for some laughs in the as close as we can come to being a watching party without actually being a show. And the best part is if you agree or disagree, we want to know. As always, share your comments below. Days of Our Lives, spoilers for Thursday, August 7th, suggest some explosive moments on the horizon. 2 characters butt heads, while there's drama for one family, and a secret meeting is held by 2 so-called rivals. What's set to go down on Thursday? Time to find out. Days of Our Lives, spoilers for Thursday, August 7th, imply that Steve Johnson and Alex Kyriakis will butt heads. It sounds like this might have to do with Stephanie Johnson, or the little tidbit of information that Steve found out about Alex. Will he confront his daughter's boyfriend about his past arrest? Fans will have to tune in to find out. In other news, Gabby Hernandez will open up to Xander Kyriakis. However, is this genuine or part of her plan to manipulate him? Speaking of Gabby's plan, her partner in crime, Tony Dimera will have a conversation with his wife, Anna Dimera, about his late father. Anna will point out how Susan Banks is claiming that Stefano Dimera is still alive, but it feels like Tony may fluff off Susan's claims, even though he knows something. Is Stefano still alive? Only time will tell. Speaking of the Dimeras, Days of Our Lives spoilers for Thursday note that Belle Black will have a secret meeting with EJ Dimera, and it looks like a trap is being set for Belle. EJ will do something ruthless as the days go by, so it sounds like he'll attempt to convince the judge to replace Belle as she's compromised. Will he video their secret meeting to prove Belle isn't being professional? Lastly, Johnny DiMera will admit his worries about the trial to his wife, Chanel DiMera. Is Johnny more concerned than he is showing? Days of Our Lives has been mourning the loss of John Black, while the cast has been mourning beloved star Drake Augustine. Fan favorite Allison Sweeney was unable to film for John's funeral due to a scheduling conflict, so Sammy missed the funeral. Lucky for fans and Sweeney, the writers crafted a return that allowed Sammy to remember him her own way. The storyline also gave Sweeney the chance to honor Augustine on screen, and the result was soap gold. Sammy returned to Salem this week, showing Days fans a side of her we haven't seen. Especially when it came to John, those two had a turbulent relationship at best. From the moment Sammy saw John having sex with Marlena on the Titan conference table, she was out to destroy him. Even though John was Marlena's great love, Sammy didn't care. Eventually, Sammy apologized to John for her decades-long bad behavior. However, she had many unresolved feelings, which was why having her mourn him alone was perfect. Days utilized Sweeney's scheduling issue in more ways than one. The first was comments about Sammy not being at John's funeral by different people, like Carrie and Belle, more than hinted that Sammy's presence would have made things more difficult. Then, watching Sammy sit alone in John and Marlena's home, breaking down in tears as she spoke to John and remembered him, it clicked that everything worked out right. Sammy's rocky relationship would have been a glaring negative at the funeral. Instead, Days fans saw a new, grown Sammy as she reflected on their relationship and the things she never got to say. Sammy finally acknowledged John's positive impact on her life and said goodbye her way. Sweeney hit it out of the park as Sammy, which should not surprise anyone. The actress left us in tears and gave a performance that made us feel like John was letting her know it was all good, kid. One ex-user summed up Sweeney's performance, saying, "I give @AllieSweeney Performance of the Week. Thanks for making me cry all through your parts." 2 special moments, Sammy talking to John. The last one, always live in my heart. That's a fact. Great job, Allie. Sammy Brady, #Days. Days of Four Lives. EJ decided to burn everything to the ground at Johnny's trial in the Thursday, August 7th, episode of Days of Our Lives. In bed, he assured Belle that she had nothing to worry about and that there was nothing but respect. And they traded I love yous. But then in the courtroom, after Belle's tough questioning, EJ tried to play the conflict of interest card. Dark EJ was in play, and he didn't care who he had to take down to save his son. EJ created the conflict of interest after Belle recused herself from prosecuting her nephew. He pushed for her to be the prosecutor of record, and so everybody knew going in that there was a big ol' conflict of interest, considering she was the defendant's aunt. This time, however, EJ exploited the conflict and made Johnny testify that Belle was EJ's girlfriend. This came after Belle inexplicably called Johnny to the stand. Johnny is the defendant. The first time the jury hears his story, if the defendant chooses to even take the stand, should be when the defense is up. Regardless, Belle needed to paint a picture of the night someone shot EJ. As a result, she had to get him to testify as to why he was so angry with his father. He had to admit to finding out about what his dad did to his mom. He also had to admit to showing up at EJ's with Roman's gun. In recross, EJ asked Johnny about EJ and Belle's relationship. After admitting how Belle was EJ's girlfriend, EJ pointed out the huge conflict of interest and called for an immediate mistrial. There's no way the judge will rule for a mistrial, considering that almost everybody knew about their relationship, and EJ had been the one to get Belle's recusal reversed. Not to mention the fact that Belle had been prosecuting Johnny to the best of her abilities. She wasn't giving her nephew or her lover special treatment. Even the representative from the state attorney general's office was satisfied, so satisfied that he left. This was a desperate move on EJ's part. There's no way the judge will rule for a mistrial, right? This is a trial where a father who's also the victim is representing his son. Did EJ sacrifice his relationship with Belle to save his son from a conviction? Will people be okay with what EJ did because he was trying to keep Johnny out of jail? And how angry will Belle be? Is this it for Belle and EJ? Days of Our Lives. Spoilers for Friday, August 8th. See Belle going off on EJ, while Johnny fears he'll be going off to prison, requiring Marlena to step in. Belle is Johnny's aunt. This makes prosecuting him for EJ's attempted murder difficult. EJ is Johnny's father. That's why he's defending his son. Belle and EJ are also sleeping together, which makes all of the above a lot more complicated. The two can't quite decide where they stand. 1 minute, they're at each other's throats. The next, they are at some other parts. 1 minute they're kicking and screaming, the next they're kissing and smooching. Which one will it be this Friday? That would be the angry side of their relationship, as Belle has some fighting words for EJ. While his father and his aunt figure out their complicated relationship, Johnny worries that his situation is just getting worse. Can they take a moment to focus on him, the star of the hour? Regardless of what they decide, Johnny still has a trial to get through, survive, and hopefully be declared innocent. He's about to lose it, which is when Marlena steps up to reassure her grandson. She calms him down. But will she affect his future? Gabby and Xander may be getting along better these days, but that doesn't mean she's forgotten Tony's offer. She helps him take over Titan, and Gabby can run the whole thing. Sure, let's give it a shot. Which means it's time to ask Xander some very pertinent questions, now that they're friends and stuff. Sarah and Brady have also gotten friendlier lately, but she's got quite a shocking reveal for him. Will this change everything? For them? Or is this about Tate and the son he doesn't know about? Meanwhile, Chad is there for Kat. Again, this ISA agent is pretty helpless, isn't she? Days of Our Lives spoilers photos for the August 8th, 2025 episode tease the smooch we've been waiting for. It's been a big week for Chat, and it all ends with a moment that will change everything. After their wild time stuck in the Salem University Hospital elevator, Chad and Kat will get the all clear from Sarah. But when Kat needs some TLC at home, Chad will be there to take care of her, and it looks like things will end with a kiss for this slow burn couple. Meanwhile, in the square, Sarah will once again run into Brady, who Xander has already become jealous of. Days of Our Lives sees Belle Black is going to freak out when EJ DiMera tries to get a mistrial in his son Johnny DiMera's criminal case this week, and she may dump her dimpled lover. Belle decided to get a room over at the Salem Inn, while her sister Sammy Brady stays at the apartment with their mom, Marlena Evans. Since Belle had already told EJ they can't be seen in public, Belle's been missing out on her daily dose of hanky-panky with her bad boy. So she slipped EJ a room key to her suite at the Salem Inn. Belle is going to take off while EJ smiles and waits before he follows her over to the hotel. But is this Belle and EJ tryst the reason that he calls for a mistrial during Johnny's hearing? I wonder if EJ is setting up Belle, or just taking advantage of something that falls into his lap, even though they decided to cool things off during Johnny's trial. The fact is, plenty of people already know EJ and Belle are involved. So, she and EJ are already under scrutiny since Belle's the prosecuting DA, and EJ is his son Johnny's defense attorney, as well as the shooting victim. It wouldn't look good at all if the jury or the public knew that Belle and EJ are in a steamy romance. However, that ship may sail. It may leave the dock soon because Belle's jaw is going to drop when EJ calls for a mistrial. So, is he going to expose their fling? No matter who does, things are going to go downhill quickly for Belle and EJ. And by the end of the week, things look really bad. So, things at the moment seem fine when Belle slipped EJ her room key. But that's hot on the heels of some pretty bad testimony in Johnny's case. In addition to Paulina Price testifying that Johnny was glad EJ got shot, we had Gabby Hernandez on the stand saying she heard them argue. What's crazy to me is DA Bell put Gabby on the stand, a woman who admits she was lurking outside EJ's house with a gun in her hand. Why would Gabby be considered a credible witness? She has every reason to lie. She was there with a firearm, and everybody knows she wanted EJ dead. So frustrated by these setbacks, EJ is going to be happy to enjoy Belle for a sexy meetup at the Salem Inn to work out some of his frustrations in the bedroom. It makes sense that Sammy being in town sent Belle scurrying to the inn for a few nights. Sammy hates the fact that EJ's dating Belle. EJ's mom, Susan Banks, recently mentioned that EJ's ex-wife Sammy is mean and still obsessed with him. Days of Our Lives spoilers say EJ talks to Johnny about a big move in his legal strategy. So, if you wonder, would EJ set up his girlfriend Belle and expose their affair to stop this trial against Johnny? The answer is yes. Capital yes. Of course, EJ would do that. Yes, he loves Belle, but he also loves Johnny. EJ probably figures he can talk Belle out of being mad later. As Leo Stark said to Gabby and Rafe Hernandez, this is the case where the DA and the defense attorney both want the guy on trial to be found not guilty. What could be interesting is if EJ sets it up so that he and Belle are spotted canoodling, but then he frames somebody else. EJ may not admit that he revealed their relationship. Instead, he may throw blame at Hurricane Sammy. We could see him actually setting this up, but then EJ could scapegoat Sammy and say that she was jealous of Belle and exposed them and reported their affair to the court. It would make sense for Sammy to do it because it would tarnish Belle's reputation and could get Johnny a mistrial. Sammy definitely doesn't want Johnny going to prison for any crime, much less one that he didn't commit. After their tryst in court, EJ demands a mistrial due to a conflict of interest. There's also stuff coming where Johnny has to take the stand and he answers questions. I'm not entirely sure if the mistrial request comes after Johnny gives his testimony as a kind of Hail Mary that EJ was holding in his back pocket, or if he tries it and it doesn't work, and then Johnny has to take the stand. We'll find out by the end of this week. Other Days of Our Lives spoilers say that Belle goes off. She is ranting at EJ later this week and may blame him for setting her up and making her look bad. Paulina could fire Belle over this. Although, to be real, Paulina also doesn't want to see Johnny convicted, but it could ruin Belle's reputation as a lawyer, as a district attorney. If EJ does this, he could lose Belle, although it would hopefully save Johnny from going to Statesville. If EJ plays his cards right, he could shift the blame from himself over onto Sammy and then explain to Belle that it's a win-win. EJ could pretend like he's indignant and tell Belle, "We have to stick together. We can't let Sammy break us up." And then he can hope the mistrial gives him time to find the real shooter so that Johnny won't wind up back on trial. We'll see if it works. It's a gambit. After all, everybody knows Sammy hates that her little sister, Belle, is seeing her ex-husband, EJ. And it's bad enough that Belle is forced to prosecute her nephew, Johnny. The judge could agree to the mistrial if EJ and Belle's romance is exposed.